Ladies, congratulations on the graduation from your Education and Preparation for Reproduction and Delivery course. We have been monitoring your 5-year progress since you were 15, and we are proud to accept you into the program and looking forward to you joining us.
We have been so excited by your outstanding progress in our partner EPRD courses, especially your ability to live together, work in groups, encourage and challenge each other.
We are looking forward to you joining us on Mars. During your graduation ceremony, you will take your oaths and become sworn sisters of the village.
The first Rangers landed here 30 years ago, with more people arriving to set up a small establishment year after year. They modified their spacecraft each time, leaving material and whole ships to create our village, soon to be your home. Your living quarters have been set up for your arrival. First, we want to clarify a few things that you may have been wondering.
First of all, why the specialty classes? We decided that in order to safeguard human fertility, it will require a stepwise adaptation to our new environment. You have all demonstrated excellent competency in the courses throughout your 5 years, but we know we owe you an explanation behind these classes and the exclusivity of the course.
You have been living together to demonstrate your ability to get along. You will all become sworn sisters upon your arrival on Mars. You agreed to the one-way condition: you will live and die on Mars. Your courses in reproductive health are to give you knowledge and understanding of the changes you will undergo to initiate population growth.
Recently, the world population has peaked at its highest ever recorded, 24 billion, and is anticipated to continue climbing with exponential birth rates expected from technological advances. It has been known for hundreds of years that the population growth is not sustainable on Earth, and you will pioneer the regeneration, the new beginning of the first million Martians.
All 150 of your graduating class will be transported to Mars on a 9-month journey. 9 months as a representation of the journey you went through as a fetus before your birth on Earth. You will arrive on Mars after 9 months and be indoctrinated as a true Mars Ranger and official regenerator. Your role will be to facilitate the early development of the children of the future. Our launch carrier, our ARC, will transport you through space, and our Ferritin transporter will land you safely on the surface of Mars.
When you travel to Mars, you will be accompanied by a bank of suspended embryos in induced diapause. In early 2025, a brilliant discovery of a unique uterine protein, diapausamine, isolated from the Tamar wallaby by Dr. Peter Temple-Smith, former director of one of our partner programs, Monash EPRD, which revolutionized embryonic technologies. This protein, in conjunction with a patented organ-on-a-chip model, influences an in vitro myometrial development that can sustain diapause.
Once you arrive on Mars, these embryos will be transferred to you, our last home, to begin the first stage of regeneration. These embryos arise from vigorously screened samples of donors on Earth. There will be a huge pool of genetic diversity representative of all ancestors on Earth. We have always acknowledged that it takes a village to raise a child, and we are aiming for a population of 1 million. So it is essential that we have a significant representation and diversity, that you each feel responsible for all children. The effects of microgravity on fertilization, sperm travel in the uterine cavity, and of a standard full-term pregnancy were briefly investigated by NASA EPRD before a political intervention with regards to ethics shut the study down.
You know I'm totally off script right now. Sir, we can have it totally finished in 1 week. I said 1 week! Other countries say, get the hell out of here. They will execute the baby after birth. They're trying to take you out with bullshit, okay? With bullshit.
Now, the results have been extrapolated from the reverse situation, where excessive gravity was shown to have detrimental effects on the reproductive system.
Alright, your first ride is going to be that gradual onset ride to a maximum of 7 Gs. Are you ready?
I guess, yes.
Yeah, ready. I'm ready. Sure.
After After your studies, you'll be aware of the complications and risks associated with full-term partition, power, passage and passenger.
Therefore, we have a safeguard to maintain the health of the future. Infants will be transferred from your biological womb environment to our state-of-the-art patented Womb for One More, or WOFOM.
The Womb for One More, based from a concept developed nearly 100 years ago and theorized in so many science fiction films and novels, is the new reality. Based from other artificial womb systems, the WOFOM will acclimatize the children of the future to the microgravity environment through centripetal force, in addition to providing optimized environments for the developing fetuses. Those initial studies completed by NASA EPRD managed to isolate the effects of gravity in early pregnancy, which indicates that there is no effect on pregnancy up to 22 weeks gestation.
Removal of the amniotic sac and placenta will be achieved by a bionic arm that aseptically separates the fetus from the womb and moves it into the WOFOM. This occurs in a stepwise fashion. Each plate creates a connection between the amnion or the placenta and the endometrial cavity, one at a time, with the next plate proceeding to make a connection once stabilised. Biosensors will detect the environmental stressors to prevent hemorrhage or fetal distress. Appropriate medications such as misoprostol will be administered locally using microfluidics once an impermeable capsule has been formed around the amniotic cavity. This prevents postpartum hemorrhaging, reduces uterine and cervical trauma, and prevents opportunity for human error affecting implantation or future pregnancies.
From robotic microsurgery on a grape to large-scale AI-assisted surgeries, the advancements in surgical procedures in the last 50 years has been astronomical. The transfer of the fetus to the WOFOM occurs robotically on a surgical platform in an aseptic transfer room, in which the embryo transfers, fetal transfers, and births all occur.
Once a transfer has been completed, the pods initiate their patent spin cycles, each pod spinning at a gravitational force relative to that on Earth, 1g. This will allow for adaptation for vasculature, CNS, respiratory and optical development to mimic the timeline of a normal Earth pregnancy. The gravitational force reduces gradually over the remainder of gestation, to 38% of that on Earth, to prepare the child of the future for their entry into microgravity environment. This will allow for adaptive epigenetic changes in gene transcription to be optimized during organogenesis and tailored to a lower gravity environment. There will be a series of backup gravitational systems in the rarity of failure.
The first centripetal force system will rotate the pods only. The secondary backup will rotate the trio of pods on the platform, and the final backup system will rotate all platforms around the central supply system. This platform will also move when the fetal transfers are required and will align the designated pod with the surgical platform. The central supply system is connected through isolated underground channels to provide hormones, nutrients, and a mechanism for gaseous exchange to the pods.
Some of you had difficulty in the engineering exam. We understand and will ensure you are properly trained and understand the biomechanical principles of the WOFOM before your allocated supervision period. But as a refresher, picture the armadillo curling into a small ball and being gently shifted into a pod.
These pods will mimic the environment from an hour before the fetal transfer and are calibrated to the exact requirements of each child. You will each receive a welcome pack once on board the Ark. These will include special biosensor clothing that will assist in the preparation of the pod for optimal calibration upon transfer. The biosensors will also allow us to track your stress levels, your general health and well-being. You needn't worry about approaching us when you're feeling unwell.
We will already know. Supplementation of nutrients and hormones in the pods will be controlled by an artificial intelligence system that has been established here already. The Director of Tech, Jordan, will educate you further in your specifics of the AI program of the pod, further to what you were examined on in your exam for GRS 7202.
You will each be assigned into one of 3 sectors on your arrival: Regeneration 1, Recovery 1, or Supervision 1. This will be the pilot year, a test of the triplicate system with 50 of you in each sector.
Your welcome pack will have further information to your sector and your roles, but let's follow the example of 3 women in each group. Starting with the first 3 transfers in what will be your first week of landing in the Regeneration 1 group. 50 transfers with 3 transfers a week will take approximately 17 weeks. This allows for a buffer time period in case some transfers are unsuccessful and need to be repeated.
The 50 women in Recovery 1 and Supervision 1 will undergo additional training in this first 22-week time period until the cyclical nature of the system is established. Recovery 1, because you won't be recovering from pregnancy, you'll be receiving additional specialist training on the troubleshooting and manual maintenance of the pod systems in the absolute rare case of mechanical or AI failure. Supervision 1 will optimise the entertainment, fitness, and recreational activities here in the village.
After 22 weeks and the transfer of the fetus to the WOFOM, these first 3 women will move to the Recovery 2 team, where you will have further access to the entertainment systems here to assist in your recovery. 3 women from Recovery 1 will progress onto the Supervision 2 sector, with 3 women from each group transitioning to the next sector each week, in conjunction with 3 implantations, Regeneration 2, and 3 fetal transfers to the pod and 3 births from the pods each week.
Once fetal transfers and births begin, the supervision sector will be split in 2. The first 11 weeks of supervision will be caring for the women in recovery. The second 11 weeks will be caring for the newborn children of the future and optimizing your mental health in preparation for your embryonic transfer. This cycle will continue for 5 years, at which we will evaluate the birth rate, establish an education system for the children coming of age for schooling, and some women may be given the opportunity to retire. If this cycle continues for 5 years at the optimal birth rate, we predict the population to reach 6,450. Once the first children reach the age of 20, they will take over the responsibility of regeneration, and you will retire. Therefore, this halt at 5 years will allow the assessment of resources and will still allow us to reach our goal of 1 million on Mars by the year 2100.
Further to the entertainment, fitness and recreational activities, these entertainment systems are currently VR and augmented reality and hyper-realistic. It's like you're actually here.
You could bicycle through your old childhood route or visit places on Earth you never got to see. We also have hyper-realistic VR footage of the Melbourne Botanical Gardens, one of the most beautiful attractions of the city of Melbourne, whereas 4 directors met and developed this entire program in 2019, before humans even set foot on Mars.
We have a space museum modelled off Melbourne Planetarium with interactive shows to highlight the different constellations on Mars compared to Earth, and the history of humankind in space, starting with the landing of humans on the Moon in 1969.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
The birth of the first generation of children on Mars will correspond with the 100-year anniversary of humans setting foot on the Moon.
You will be given the choice to live with your sector trio or individually, with private food prep facilities available and communal dining spaces for every meal. We have established greenhouses, aquaponics and community vegetable gardens that you will be responsible for during your supervision sector roles.
We have a predominantly pescatarian and vegetarian diet, but with your cooking classes, we're confident that you will thrive in this environment.
As with infants, nutrition, warmth, safety and love are essential for all humans to thrive. We have the rare ability to transform our imagination into reality. 100 years ago, we dreamed of the ability to terraform Mars to sustain life. The reality is that we can now adapt ourselves to the environment of the planet, and in a micro-evolutionary fashion, with the room for one more.
In regards to the warmth and safety necessary to survive, the living facilities are protected with the same membranous channel structures that protect you from radiation on your travel to Mars. We personally risked exposure to radiation in order to perfect the system in place that will protect you, and the embryos on your travel, as no organisation on Earth was willing to undertake this research in regards to the health and safety of their own researchers. We understood the risks, and we developed a system that not only protects from radiation, but is multi-purpose, and acts as a water recapture and filtration system.
The system protects us from galactic cosmic rays, the high-energy particles that travel close to the speed of light. You will be at highest risk of radiation exposure during travel through the Van Allen belt. You will implement your practice of the radiation exposure drill in the bunker when traveling through this area, and upon warning of solar flares during travel time. As this type of radiation is analogous to exposure from X-rays, nuclear fallout, and radiation therapy, the long-term risks are well studied. Your one-way trip through space will eliminate the cumulative nature of this damage, and you will be shielded on Mars.
Solar flares, energetic particles emitted by the sun, will be detected via an onboard system in travel and on Mars to allow warning for additional bunker protection if required. The membrane system of the ships and the village have layers of protection, starting with the waste filtration system that compresses feces to extract water. The bacteria in the water feeds the layer of tardigrades, through which the water further filters back to the central system. Behind that layer, we have food storage on the walls of the ship, then your transportation quarters, and in a central lid-lined cavity will be the embryos in their suspended diapause state.
We also have systems in place to collect more water and oxygen. We hope you can recall the date that the MOXIE system was sent to Mars. The MOXIE system, Mars Oxygen In Situ Resource Utilization Experiment, designed by Michael Hecht years ago, has been converting carbon dioxide to oxygen since arrival. Resource-wise, it was always known to be unsustainable to send supplies from Earth, as the amount of fresh, unpolluted water needed to supply our population is no longer available to send.
Mars is often up to 100% humid. In 1998, plans for a low-tech dehumidifier made its way into the right hands, and all the way to us in 2019. From then, we modified and scaled a version that can create purified water in the right environmental conditions to add to our storage tank systems.
Our main source of energy here is a hybrid of solar and wind power. This system harvests solar energy throughout the day and wind energy through the violent dust storms that block the sunlight from reaching the panels. We have almost a continuous supply of energy from this system, but an incredibly large backup store from the time period in which these systems arrived before we set foot here.
Social structure was trialled in the EPRD Partnership Gloriavale community on the west coast of the South Island, New Zealand. Given the pretense of religion, a blind pilot study was conducted to see the efficacy of high birth rates with little to no family planning, and what the incidence of disease, infection, and compliance with the wishes of elders in the community would be like.
This study proved highly effective with almost 100% compliance rates, higher than expected happiness, birth rates, and community spirit.
The people at Gloriavale are my life. They are my brothers, they are my sisters, they are my father, they are my mother. We start the day with our communal breakfast together. After breakfast, the children get ready to go to their various classes.
And you look there and you think, these precious children, which ones would you want to be without? Which one should never have been born?
This community environment will be established after we all pass away, and we will revert into the energy cycle established here. It won't be a concept that we will be here to enjoy, but we are confident that you will find your sense of community with us and your sworn sisters.